Well, howdy again. I'm just sitting out here in the bunkhouse and had a few things mulling through my mind here, and I thought I'd kind of share them with you. Number one, I'd like to apologize to anybody that thought I was, militantly against homosexuals. I'm not against homosexuals. I hang out with some. I know some. It's no thing to me, and that's just it. It ain't no thing. I'm not going to go become a senator like Barney Frank so that I can poke it in the eye of all the heterosexuals who were so unfair to Barney. Maybe Barney got made fun of when he was in school. Well, I doubt that was because he was a homosexual. It was because he's such a flighty, blithering little twerp. That's why he was made fun of, not because he was homosexual. Nobody cares what he does. But what they do care is, Barney Frank, and you can't understand what he says, and he's supposed to be an orator, and he's supposed to be so smart. Well, guess what, Barney? You ain't very smart. You're the one that screwed this thing up, and you ain't even got guts enough to say that you and Chris Dodd and all your pals there that have been chumming around with Angelo, you guys make a ton of money off from that. And here's that thing. What I am against is that militancy. Barney's militant. He's a militant homosexual, and he's militant because he don't think it's fair that somebody don't like him. Well, guess what? There's a lot of people don't like me, and that's their prerogative. They don't have to like me. I'm not going to become a congressman or a senator so that I can make rules that tell everybody they got to like me. It's a free country. Our country was based on freedom. Freedom of speech. Well, that seems to be going away. We got this feller up there. He don't like people. He doesn't like criticism. Well, that's because he's a little kid. He acts like a little kid, a thin, spoiled brat little kid. Yeah, he's a black man, but he ain't ever been down the black people's road. Number one, he's from Kenya, and if there's no problem with his birth certificate, let's see it. And number two, the guy who paid for his education. The guy's been to the best schools. He's been taken care of. And so he has no idea what it's like to live in the ghetto. Not a homeboy. So let's get that one out of the way. And he don't show me squat. All he is a spoiled brat, hangs around with Bill Ayers and people that hate. Bunch of haters. He's a hater. He's angry. Well, guess what? I'm getting a little angry with him taking our freedoms away. This country was based on freedom. The real smart people are out here, outside of government. Those that can do, those that can't teach, and those that can't teach go into politics. That's usually the way it works. Now, that being said, this whole thing is going to put cap and trade. That's cap and tax, because the whole thing is in order for anything to get done, you got to use energy. And carbonaceous life forms, that's what our country, all of our fuels work off from. And it's the most efficient thing we found. It's energy efficient. Everything else that we've tried takes more energy to produce it than what you get out of it. And that's called a net loss. Don't take a genius to figure that out. An old feller out here out in the barnyard can figure that out. I guess maybe some of them big shots in Washington could maybe figure that out. And I'm a hippie in recovery. I used to be one of them left wing. Life's got to be fair. Life's got to be fair. Just ain't fair that there's poor people. Well, there's a lot of poor people because they don't work. I'm poor. And I do work, but I work at something that don't pay a lot. But I like what I do, and I don't feel bad because somebody else is making a buck. If I wanted to dedicate myself to making a buck, I'd make a buck. That just hasn't been my thing. I do what I choose, and I'm not going to feel bad because somebody else does something else. And by the way, Al Gore, you got a few shekels in your bank, I notice. And, oh yeah, how come you own that carbon credit company there? And you're out advocating for that carbon trade-off thing. What a hypocrite. What a liar. Bunch of liars. Nancy Pelosi, what about you? How come you got money invested in this thing, Isn't that conflict of interest? Well, not anymore. Them Democrats that want to be fair to everybody. What happened to civility? Yeah, bunch of punks. You're little punks, little spoiled brat kids, little college boys, little college girls, little spoiled brats had your asses wiped for you all your life. Now you're going to put all the rest of us into subjection because you think we're all so stupid. Well, guess what? We're not stupid. We know what you're doing. The other thing is this, well, and if you think I'm just picking on the Democrats, well, you're wrong. I ain't got too much use for them Republicans either. You know, they send me stuff and they say, let's send them liberals a packing. Well, then they turn around and they're passing the same restrictive laws, abrogating the Constitution. You know, there is a Constitution, and it's not a living, breathing document. If it's living, breathing, then it's not a Constitution. Constitution sets limits, and if you can change the limits every time it's not convenient, then it's not a Constitution. It's just a piece of paper. You can hang it next to your toilet, you know? What's wrong with you people? That's what makes life more fun, is having a few rules. You know, it's just a good example. You know, what they're trying to do is make idiots out of all of us, and ruling class. I don't see anybody in Washington not taking trips. You know, all them car executives flew to Washington. Oh God, no. Well, and then Mr. Obama flies to Europe, spends money like it's water. Money he hasn't earned. He hasn't done squat. He's gone to college. They haven't stirred up crap down in the inner city. You know, the guy's done nothing. He's a zero. He's a zip. He's a nothing. Hear that, Obama? You're nothing. You ain't ever done nothing. All you are is angry. Well, guess what? You're making me angry. You're making a bunch of us angry. Who do you think you are? This is a country of, by, and for the people. You work for us. We don't work for you. And it ain't supposed to be that way. John Kerry questioning somebody, are you a Republican? Well, guess what, doofus? It don't matter if he's a Republican. You represent all of us, or you're supposed to. But that ain't the way it works now. It's all about destruction and power grabbing. You know, read about the Nazis in Germany. This is the way they did it. This is the way they come to power. They abrogated their constitution. They abrogated their civil rights in Germany. And the very people that, the Jewish women, were the ones that supported Hitler. And guess who got met? And then he took all their money when they helped put him in power. Read history. You know, don't listen to what they teach you in the public schools. Read a book. It's out there. What's wrong with you people? You know, Katrina is a great example of what happens when you have a dependent group of people. People that wait for the tit of the government to come and take care of them, feed them, do everything for them, because life ain't fair. Life dealt me a bad deck of cards. Oh, you know, I can't believe this country has turned into a bunch of whining crybabies. Katrina, that's New Orleans. They rely on Mardi Gras. Other than that, they're getting welfare checks. One of the largest welfare recipient cities in the world. And when bad things started to happen, they didn't have sense enough to get to high ground. Because they always sit around and wait they watch Oprah, watch their TV shows, you know, smoke their crack or do whatever they do, and wait for the government tit to feed them. And then they ain't got sense enough to come in out of the rain. Gee, where did I hear that? I think my mother told me that. Well, Mr. Obama, you know, back where I grew up, we had a saying too, if you can't dazzle them with brilliance, baffle them with bullshit. Well, guess what? You got a lot of people baffled, but I'm not one of them. And there's a bunch of us that aren't baffled. We know what you're doing. You and all you Democrats. We don't need you. You need us. Have a nice day.